we're bringing you all you need to succeed in the real estate business. It's Spilling the LTea, brought to you by Lawyers Title, telling you what it's really like to work in real estate.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of Spilling the LTea with Lawyers Title. I'm super excited about today. We've got some amazing guests. We're going to be talking about the fun subject of divorce and how it affects a real estate transaction. I'm going to let you guys meet the awesome Stephanie Allen and let her introduce her guest.
Hey guys, Stephanie Allen here. I've got the wonderful Laura Roach with us today. She is an attorney and she's also a partner at McCathern Law Firm. And then I've also got the Honorable Judge John Roach with us, and obviously he is the Collin County State District Judge. But I'm going to let them tell a little bit more about themselves. So.
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm Laura Roach, and I have been a family law attorney for 25 years, well, really 26. And I'm married to this guy right here, and we have 3 boys together. I have done exclusively family law probably for about 21 years, 22 years, and I absolutely love it. I love every part about it, so much so that John and I decided to write a book together called Divorce in Peace, and we wrote that based on the fact that people there's a lot of mistakes you can make while you're getting divorced and a lot of bad decisions you can make. And so we decided to write a book to try to express and tell people, the right way to do it. But I absolutely love what I do. I love my job. I'm passionate about it, and I just love my clients, and I'm happy to be here. So thanks for letting me be here.
Absolutely.
Well, thank y'all for having us. I'm John Roach, and I am a state district judge in Collin County and have been for the last 15 years. Now, I do a little bit different. I do criminal, civil, family, and CPS cases, but family law does take up about 33% of my docket, and so I handle family law cases every day and have for many, many years.
So may I ask you how many cases come across your desk a day, do you think?
A day, probably anywhere between 30 and 50. I am responsible for 2,000 cases at any given time.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot of cases.
A lot to keep up with.
It is. Growing county, lots of cases.
Yes,
yeah.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned, Laura, people making bad decisions in divorce. That's probably because emotions are so high. They're not really thinking about the factual implications of the choices they make. And so let's talk a little bit about how it relates to real estate, the real estate transaction. We get a lot of questions as a title company. I'm going through a divorce. We're wanting to list our house. How do we go about doing that? So can you talk a little bit about it from like the standing order perspective, what happens prior to the decree?
Okay, so before you file for divorce, the court's not interested really in what's going on. So if you haven't filed for divorce yet and you want to sell your house or buy another, that's just between you and your husband, you and your spouse, okay? But once you file for divorce, most counties, and it's most counties all around here, have a standing order. And in that standing order, you can't sell or transfer property or do anything without the agreement of the other spouse. And so a lot of times people will, even though their name, it's my name, and I owned this before we were married. It doesn't matter. If you're married and you're going through a divorce, everything's presumed to be community property, and everything is frozen without other agreements or other court orders. So that's, a lot of times people will come, file for divorce, and then insist on selling the house. Mm-hmm. And you can insist it all day long, unless you go to court and show how it's in everyone's best interest to sell the house, or you get an agreement, you can't sell the house. And the problem from your side is they show up for a closing, right, and then people are like, well, the wife's not signing and you're trying to close the deal and you can't do it, and it's a big nightmare. So
talk to me about Texas. I know Texas is a little different. Some states recognize separation. Mm-hmm. We don't have that in Texas, right?
Correct. What happens is you file for divorce, you have a cooling off period of 60 days, and you can't get divorced in that time frame, but you're still married. Right. There's no legal separation there. Now, there are things we can do like partition agreements and basically postnuptial agreements where you divide up the property and do all that even though you're still married. But it's not a legal separation as far as the court's concerned. It is just you're just filed for divorce and your divorce is pending. So you still need everyone's agreement and signatures and things like that to close on any property.
So talk to me about that. Obviously, when people are divorced, they're not necessarily getting along.
Right.
They may not sit down across the table and sign paperwork. What happens in a situation where both parties want to list, but they can't agree upon who they're going to use for that listing?
Okay, so he can talk about this actually, because they come to him.
Well, first of all, what we want you to do, and we always want you to do, is reach an agreement. And so if you want a listing agent or something, maybe it's not the one that one wants or the other one wants, but maybe you can compromise and find one you both agree to. But if you don't, you have to go to court. And first of all, courts is expensive. So you have to have your lawyers usually to come to court and say, Judge, you pick. And so the judge literally picks the listing agent, and there's no rhyme or reason how you do it. There's no law that says, Judge, you got to pick this person or with this qualifications. It's just usually who the judge knows, and it'll do a good job. Up in Collin County, I know some realtors in Frisco and Plano and stuff, so I know kind of who knows that area. But otherwise, you just kind of pick. And so it's then the parties feel out of the loop and the whole thing because they didn't have any say-so in it. They don't think. And so it's very, very difficult. And then the court picks a listing agent, and then sometimes one spouse won't cooperate with the listing, like someone who lives in the house won't sign up for the showings, or they do stuff like that. And so you have to go, or leave the dogs out, or something like that. And so it gets very heightened early on in that divorce when you're talking about real estate, because that's their number one investment, and they have a very sentimental attachment to it. And so you put all that stuff together, then that's a recipe for conflict.
Well, on that note, in your book, you guys do talk about resolve so much. I mean, it's divorce and peace. Tell me some of the things that this book kind of covers. Can y'all go over some highlights of the book?
Yeah, I mean, basically it just talks about, it's supposed to be nationally written in the sense that it applies in all different states, but it's really, there is more of a focus of Texas, obviously, because this is where we work. But we just kind of go through the process of the different ways you can get divorced other than just going to court, and then if you have to go to court, why. But the best part really about that book is that it has my perspective as a mediator and attorney in there, like little stories, and his perspective as a judge and little stories. And I think it really kind of demonstrates to people, like, it's probably not worth fighting over. Like, there's very little that's worth fighting over. Let's just put it that way. So that's really what we're encouraging. Because what happens is, and even for me, if I mediate a divorce, and for example, I had a case. I had a professional athlete come in. I was mediating the divorce. It was a 4-month case so far, and they had spent, I think, $850,000 in attorney's fees. It was ridiculous, and I was able to get it settled in a couple of days, right? So if they'd come to see me before they spent the $850,000, it would have been a lot better. So that's what really got us wanting to write a book, to say, okay, guys, you don't have to do it the hard way. You can do it the easy way and get the same result a lot of the times. Now, sometimes people just have to fight it out, or there's mental illness involved and things like that. And I handle a lot of those cases as well. So
talk to me about your role as a mediator, because I think sometimes people don't quite understand the difference between mediation, litigation, arbitration, things like that.
So when I mediate a divorce, I don't represent anybody. I just represent trying to get an agreement done. And so I talk about hypotheticals and I do things like that. I don't give legal advice. I'm not the attorney there. Usually people have attorneys, but sometimes they don't. I'm just the go-between. I mediate a little bit differently than most mediators, where I don't just do this offer counter stuff. I talk to both sides and figure out where the case is, and I give suggestions on a proposal and come up with a proposal, and then we go back and forth on it. But I don't give legal advice, and I always refer people, if they don't have an attorney, to attorneys that I know are trustworthy and, going to give good advice out to do that. But, a lot of times the house is the main issue, because right now, especially right now with prices going up, everyone's forcing sales because they're like, we can get our money out now. And so that's and like he was saying, it's very emotional for some people. I have a lot of clients that come in here and they want to keep the house at all costs. And I'm going, okay, you don't work, you can't afford this house. Like, you could get all this cash and you won't have to worry about, the yard maintenance and the pool and the high electric bill and all that stuff. And I've had a lot of clients that unfortunately will fight to the death for their house, get their house, call me 3 months later and say, I'm ready to sell. What was that realtor you were talking to me about? It happens all the time. So that's classic.
So talk to us about possible outcomes, because you guys have seen them all. So you've got people that want to sell the house. They can't agree on an attorney. You've got an agent. You've got people that want to stay. How does that work out when one spouse wants to stay? What do you need to make that work?
Number one, mediation is the way to go do it, because you have a lot more input in mediation, a lot more problem solving, a lot more flexibility. Because if you ever get to court and have that issue, and a lot of times we'll start right at the very beginning, what's the value of the house? And so we're just arguing about values, and then we're arguing about equity. The way that I look at it, I can't say all courts, but the way I look at it is, the only way to know what that house is worth is put it on the market and sell it, and that'll tell you exactly what it is. And that's harsh. But that's really what the court does a lot of times. I can't sit there and spend the time you can in mediation and kind of work things out and negotiate and stuff. I just listen to both sides. There's a winner usually and a loser too, and I sell the house. And I think that is shocking to some people, and they kind of wish that they would have known that before they walked into the courtroom, how drastic it can be. But that's the worst case scenario for somebody is they can't agree on anything. The judge picks the realtor, picks the sales price, orders it sold, and then sells it, and then divides the equity when we're done.
And he doesn't know anything about real estate, so it's like
that's right. We have experts like y'all, y'all, and other people that can come in and tell me, but I really don't. And so it's drastic, and so that's why it's so important to have great professionals around you, including in the real estate business, but also lawyers and all around you, so you don't make those big mistakes because it can be extraordinarily costly.
Right, absolutely. So, Laura, I know you work with lots of realtors that just use you so often because you save their clients before they get to John.
That's right.
I try.
That's right.
So what if you can think of something, like what maybe is the top question you get or issue from an agent? From a realtor?
Well, from a realtor is how are we going to do this closing if there's family violence allegations, or how are we going to do this closing since they hate each other, and what's the court going to allow, and how do we get the thing done? Everyone knows the house has to be sold. It needs to be sold, but how are we going to get them across the finish line? And really, it's a matter, if there's two good attorneys on the case, they will talk and get a plan together. And sometimes they have to call the title company and the closing, to make sure, okay, we got mom coming in now, and then we got dad. Let's keep it separate. Let's do it. But
sneaking out the
the back door.
Oh my God.
But they're the main problem we have is people qualifying for refinances and stuff, because houses need to be refinanced usually when they're going from a couple owning a house to one person. And so then it's a matter of making sure you have an attorney that has thought of that and has started the income stream early. If they know their client wants to buy the house, start the income stream, and then set that up in temporary orders so that by the time the house sells and they want to close on it, husband or wife can qualify for that next home and then transfer it right over. So that's getting a whole plan of what your client's goals are really helps if you do it up front, and you can work. And luckily I have great professionals like y'all and some other ones in the business where I can go, okay, what do I need to do to get this lady, this house, or this, this guy, this house, or sell this house, or whatever. So having an attorney that is thinking about the end game is important, and getting all the professionals that are part of that end game in line beforehand so that they can get what they really want out of the divorce.
It's almost like you do need a team of professionals of divorce that know about divorce around you during that time. We do our panel together, and it's a testament to how important it is, because I have agents come and then they go through this and they're like, I'm so happy that I have these people around me that know the ins and outs
I think it's
of
a
the situation.
I love our panel because I always learn something. I'm like, okay, now I know with this client or this situation, I can handle it differently and just more efficiently, which saves everybody money and time.
So you brought up a really good point about having the right partners. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, because I know as a title company, we run into some issues of the divorce has been granted, but not everything is really finished out. One of the parties is awarded the property in the decree, but nothing else has been signed.
Right. So what you can do if things aren't signed, you actually can file the divorce decree, but nobody really wants to do that because then it's just, out there as part of your property records, and it's kind of icky. But I always make sure before, when everyone's signing, it's like a giant signing party. We make sure everything's signed right at the same time so that when that decree gets entered, the quadro's signed by the judge, which is another part of the divorce with retirement benefits. And I make sure the special warranty deeds are all signed, and the power of attorney to transfer motor vehicle interests are all signed. So we do it all at once so that it's just a clean break on date of divorce is really date of divorce. And then we turn around, and of course, our office will go ahead and file the correct deeds with the county to make sure it's all done. But the issue will always be pending is, what about the mortgage? And is it in both parties' names? And do we need to do a refinance? And if so, for how long is the refinance? And then is it a cash out refi, or what we always do in family law, well, I always do in family law and recommend to people, is to do an UTILI lien, because they get better interest rates and you can get more cash out of the house with an UTILI lien. But you got to draft that in the decree. And so it's got to be part of the divorce decree. And a lot of lawyers that practice family law primarily know to do that for the most part. But if you're an attorney that, you may really be a criminal law attorney, but you're helping a friend out on a divorce, they may not know how to do all that. And so it's really important to make sure those kind of documents are done correctly.
Absolutely, and thank you for that, because we are the ones that end up having to clean it up years later.
Yeah.
I'm having to call an ex-husband and be like, I know you got divorced 10 years ago. I need you to sign this document. And they're always confused. Explain UTILI just a little bit more for those that don't understand what that is.
Well, the UTILI is actually a really cool thing because, you can't, when you have a judgment against somebody, you can't take their homestead, okay? And the legislature really saw it as that, like, well, you can't take anybody's homestead. Well, in a divorce, that means you have to sell the house, but that's not necessarily in the best interest of the children or in the best interest of, our community or whatever, to force people to have to sell their house and move out. So people in a divorce were like, well, I have $100,000 equity in my house and I need to pay $60,000 to my wife, but I don't want to sell the house. So I'll give her an UTILI lien. And then when he goes to refinance or goes to sell the house, you can actually get the money out of the house. And that's really the only way you can take a chunk of someone's homestead, right? Because people have a homestead in their house. And so it was just a legislative written way to have a lien or a judgment against the house so that when the house is sold or refinanced, the other party will get the money that they were due at the divorce if they aren't able to pay it at the divorce.
Right, and if it's filed properly, it pulls up on the title report, so we know that we have to go to the spouse and get a payoff and see what's still owed and all that good stuff.
Correct.
Follow the decree. We've run into that situation where it hasn't been recorded properly, and we've had to deal with it on the back end. So choose the right attorney.
Right. Yeah. You got to know that.
Choose the right family law attorney.
That's right.
And then also, though, I've never really brought this up even on our panel, but there's a thing called Pendants that you file on other properties. So if there's other properties out there that somebody may be like, oh, I'm going to sneak and I'm going to, wife may go, I'm going to sell the lake house without husband knowing, and you file Pendants, and it's like it's a little mark with the property record saying, uh-oh, there's something going on here. There's some kind of litigation or whatever going on, and that can help protect your interests as well in a tricky situation, not in a nice, happy, we're all agreeing and trying to get divorced peacefully situation, but when it gets kind of nasty. So
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Most attorneys don't do it.
Yeah.
I do it because, especially when I have high value estates that have multiple real estate, and I really can't, it's only in the husband's name, and I really can't protect that little thing. I'll go ahead and file Pendants.
It's a cloud on the title.
Yeah.
For the title company.
So
it's
smart.
like,
It pops up on our
so it
title
does, and you
report.
cannot do anything with it until you figure it out or clear that title.
It gives us the alert, like,
It does.
hey, we got to
There's
figure
something
this out.
here.
That's
Do
right.
something about it.
Yeah, attorneys underutilize that.
Absolutely.
But I do it on a lot of my cases. People get mad when I do it, actually.
Well,
but I can't. I mean,
you're protecting your client's
Yeah,
that's
interest.
right. That's right.
it's my job.
So let's talk about, we don't go and see you. We don't work things out amicably. So we end up in court. And we can't agree on the real estate agent. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to go a little more in depth because I get this question a lot. So you pick the agent. What are the agent's duties? What can they do? What can they not do?
Well, I picked the agent first, and like I was telling you before, I picked the agent first, and then the agent tries to sell it for the list price that I've told them what the list price is going to be. But that when we get into the situation where the spouse isn't cooperating, they have the dogs out for the showings, they won't show the house and stuff like that. They have to take it to the next level, and then that's when the court appoints a receiver. Okay, and it's a real estate agent that I pick because they're the best person to do that for me. And then the receiver has the authority from the court to do everything. The order has to specifically say what the receiver is supposed to do, but they're very, very, very broad. They can sell it, they can negotiate it, they can sign things for them, they can get repairs done on them, and that repair be put up against the equity in the house. They pretty much are the seller in a situation like that. So it's very, very powerful. Expensive. I'll usually pay a receiver more than the commission as a real estate agent because it is more. There's more to it, more liability to it too, and so I'll pay them a little bit more to do that. But that's what happens to you if you cannot agree or cooperate with the sale of a home.
So just to be clear, guys, that means the agent is signing all the documents. You no longer are needed at closing. You're no longer needed to agree to the contract. The agent is your representative.
That's right. As long as you got to be real careful if you're the receiver that the order specifically allows you to do the things that you're trying to do, and that's on the lawyers again to draft that as broadly as they need to get the transaction completed.
Cool. I get that question so much from agents.
And then some people ask me, how do I pick a receiver?
Yeah,
Nope.
that's my next
So
question.
I knew you were going to ask me that because that's the next one I go, how do you do that? Same kind of thing. There's no legal document. There's no law. There's no list. And so it's typically the people who I know who've done it before for the court. I usually don't pick somebody for their first time unless that I really know them, because it's a big responsibility and a lot of power. But if you want to do that, write a letter to the courts and say, hey, listen, I'm available to be a receiver in real estate type of cases. And then we will put you on our informal list in our court. But each court has their own list.
Perfect. Great.
Great information.
Great tip. So let's switch to the buy side. So say we're going through divorce, it's not final yet, and I would like to go buy my own separate homestead. How does that work?
Well, you have to have an agreement usually. I mean, I have that going on in a couple clients right now, and a lot of times they do. If they have enough cash for a down payment, or they can pay cash for the house, or they're going to qualify for a mortgage, you can do it. But what I do is kind of like a partition agreement, or almost like a post-nup in the middle of the divorce. And that is basically all parties agree that we're partitioning it. This house is going to belong to wife. It's not going to belong to husband. We're going to take the $200,000 that we're putting down on it, and we're going to put it on her side of the spreadsheet for the division of the estate. And he's going to go and sign all the documents saying he has no interest in the house. Okay. But you have to get that all agreed to. Otherwise, if you have attorneys, you can get it agreed to by the attorneys. That's the smartest way to do it. If you just go and do it on your own, and that asset goes up $100,000 while the divorce is pending, well, then that's just more money on her side of the spreadsheet. So I like, for me, and I have control issues, I know, but I like to get that all agreed to. I do. I try to get that all agreed to, and before anybody's buying any household or moving or any of those things, because technically it's a violation of the standing order. So we got to get it worked out.
You're violating court order, and I'll tell you, I've never been ordered someone to buy or allow someone to buy a house during a divorce as a judge. I'll do it to sell, right? Because we have to do that, but I'll never say, okay, I'm going to order y'all to allow her or him to buy a house. And so you're kind of stuck in limbo if you can't otherwise get an agreement.
I never thought about that. Yeah, I've never taken that issue to court because
I need to buy a house. I want to take advantage of whatever this deal is. I got this great deal. Judge, I order that this house can be bought. I'm not going to do that because it encumbers the estate. And so I don't want any more encumbrances on that estate.
Well, I think it's interesting because, like we talked about earlier, you're either married or divorced in Texas. There's no separation,
That's right?
And so they come to me and they'll say, why do I, as the soon-to-be ex-husband, have to sign the deed of trust for them to take a loan on this property? And it's because it's still community property. It's still homestead in Texas. So if you guys call this divorce off, you move into this house, guess what? The lender can't foreclose unless your signature's on that deed of trust. And it creates a lot of problems.
It does.
So.
It does.
Cool. Steph, you got any questions?
I don't. I just appreciate you guys being here.
Oh.
Sure.
You are my go-to. Not you, John.
I know. I don't want to be your go-to. You don't want me to be your go-to. I get it. No offense. No offense.
I appreciate being your go-to. So thank you
you're
very
so
much.
fabulous. And I learn something every time I'm with you guys. And you guys have helped so many of my clients, my realtor clients, so with their clients, which is a huge bonus. So thank you guys for being here today.
Well,
thank you for having us.
So we're going to play a fun little game. So we've had a couple of spouses on our show up to this point.
Yes.
And we played this game with them. So we just thought we would shoot it over to you guys. And it's just like, who is it? Like, who's what? So we're going to ask a question and you're going to point at the person you think the answer is.
So yourself or the other.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm ready.
So who spends a longer amount of time getting ready?
Me.
Who's more likely to make the bedroom floor their personal laundry basket?
Oh, him. He did today. While we were getting ready for this. I was like, laundry
I thought I'd
here.
get it later.
Yeah, later's
I have a
not
plan.
okay.
I have a plan.
Later's not okay.
Who's more likely to leave dishes in the sink? Who do you trust more behind the wheel? I know. Who takes up more than half of their bed?
Oh, it depends on
You
the
lay
day.
like that.
Well, it depends on the day, but I would say generally.
Who takes the longest showers?
Me.
I think she.
It
I think you
depends.
do.
If I'm washing my hair,
Yeah, but I take longer to dry off.
Yeah.
Oddly, and that's a whole other thing that I didn't want to talk
literally-
about.
He takes up the shower space longer than I ever would.
Y'all are scary.
He dries in between his toes. It's ridiculous.
I just admitted that I have an issue with the dry
It's
off.
like, you don't have to elaborate. Okay, that's hilarious. Do you guys have pets?
We do.
Who takes care of them?
Well, me mainly,
My-
but we're about to get a
but-
third one that's his.
Yeah, so I'd say it's a combo.
All right.
Yeah, it's
all
more of a
right.
combo, I'd say.
Who is more of a clean freak?
Me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Who snores the loudest?
Me.
Him.
Okay. And who has a better playlist of music?
Me.
Oh, yeah. She
I
has all of them.
control
She
the
just sends them to
playlist.
me.
I make the playlist and I send them.
She does.
I
She
did
does.
today. I sent them one today.
So I know you're asking yourself, what do I do?
Yeah.
I
need to read that book. I need to read that
You need to
book.
read that book. Words and peace.
He just sits here and looks pretty. That's what you do.
You guys,
do.
well, y'all did 100%, so I think you're on the right track.
I think
Yeah,
we
we
are. It's been a
tried.
long
I
We've
know
been married a long
exactly
time.
who the answer was to
Yeah.
everything.
We've been married a very long time.
Oh,
Not that
thank
long.
you.
23 years, right?
That's right.
Thank you guys so much for coming
Thanks for having
on.
me.
It has
Thanks for
been
having us.
such a wealth of knowledge having both of you.
Thanks.
So we'll have to have
Call
have
us
you back.
anytime. We'll come back.
Anytime.
Yes.
Just let us know.
Actually, that's a great segue. Tell us how to contact you.
For me, you can email me at lroach@mccathernlaw.com or reach out to Stephanie. She's got my cell, my house, my work, my email. So
She can find you.
She can find me anywhere. Just look up mccathernlaw.com. Our law firm, we have Dallas, Houston, Frisco, which is great for me, and LA. I hit them all. So at Frisco, we're at the Star. So it's pretty fun, pretty cool place to work. I love it.
Yeah.
So.
And if y'all want to know where to contact me, get arrested, divorced, something like that, and I'll be right there for you.
It's true.
It's true.
That's great. You guys are the best.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this episode, please give us a like, share the episode, or subscribe to the podcast. So thanks for having us.